You came late, you missed the interview already.
You did what? You threw away our future for a stranger. Soda's voice tore through the cramped one-room apartment like thunder, her eyes blazing with fury as she stood over Obinna, who sat slumped on their worn mattress, still wearing his oil-stained work shirt. Sod, please, let me explain, Obinna started, his voice tired and defeated. Explain what? She grabbed the interview letter from the table and waved it in his face. Sterling Motors. The Sterling Motors. Do you know how many people would kill for this opportunity? And you just didn't show up. Hello guys. Welcome to Stories by Stoner. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you missed a life-changing interview to help a stranger? Let's dive in. Obinna rubbed his face with both hands, exhaustion weighing down every muscle in his body. There was a woman on the expressway. Her car broke down. She was stranded. Sod. What was I supposed to do? Keep driving. Sod screamed, throwing the letter at him. That's what you were supposed to do. Let her call a mechanic. Call road services. But no, Obinna the hero had to stop and save the day. The small room felt even smaller as tension filled every corner. Their neighbor banged on the thin wall, shouting for them to keep it down. Sod ignored it. You know what your problem is. She paced back and forth, her braids swinging with each angry step. You're too nice. Too soft. Too poor to stay poor. Obinna looked up at her, hurt flashing across his face. So helping someone makes me stupid. When it costs you your future. Yes. Sod stopped pacing and crossed her arms. My friends are dating men with cars, men with houses in Lekki, men who take them to Dubai for holiday. And me. I'm stuck here with a mechanic who can't even keep an interview appointment. I've been a good man to you, Sod, Obinna said quietly. I work hard. I've never cheated. I've never raised my hand to you. I'm trying to build something. Build what? She laughed bitterly. This. She gestured around the room, the peeling paint, the single bulb hanging from the ceiling, the small kerosene stove in the corner. I'm 25 years old, Obinna. I'm not getting any younger. I can't keep waiting for someday, while you play Good Samaritan to random people. Obinna stood up slowly, his tall frame unfolding. Even in his worn clothes, there was a quiet dignity about him. The woman was alone. It was getting dark. The expressway isn't safe at night. What kind of man would I be if I just drove past? The kind with a job. Sod shot back. The kind who thinks about his girlfriend, his sister, his own life before he thinks about strangers. Zara needs school fees, Obinna said, his voice strained. I know that. I was counting on this job. You think I wanted to miss that interview? You think it was easy for me? Then why did you? Sod demanded, stepping closer. Why, Obinna? Give me one good reason. Because it was the right thing to do. The simplicity of his answer seemed to infuriate her more. She grabbed her handbag from the floor and started stuffing her clothes into it, the few items she kept at his place. What are you doing? Obinna asked, alarm creeping into his voice. I'm done, Sod said flatly, not looking at him. I've given you 3 years, Obinna. 3 years of waiting, hoping, praying that things would get better. But you'll never change. You'll always choose everyone else over yourself. Over us. Sod, don't do this. Not tonight. Please. She zipped up her bag and slung it over her shoulder. When she finally looked at him, her eyes were cold. My mother was right about you. You're a good man, Obinna. But good men finish last. And I'm not finishing last with you. She walked to the door, her heels clicking on the concrete floor. So that's it. Obinna's voice cracked. 3 years, and you're walking out because of one mistake? Sod paused at the door, her hand on the handle. It's not one mistake. It's who you are. And I can't afford to love someone like you. The door slammed shut behind her. Obinna stood frozen in the middle of the room, the echo of her departure ringing in his ears. Slowly, he sank back onto the mattress, his head in his hands. The interview letter lay crumpled on the floor where Sod had thrown it. Outside, Lagos traffic hummed its usual chaotic song, horns blaring, generators rumbling, street hawkers calling out their wares. Inside, Obinna sat in silence, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. His phone buzzed. A text from Ibrahim. "Guy, how the interview go? You don't start work ABI." Obinna stared at the message but couldn't bring himself to reply. What do you think happens next? Will Obinna regret his choice? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Drop your predictions in the comments below. The morning sun burned through the thin curtains of Obinna's room, but he'd barely slept. He sat on the edge of his mattress, staring at his phone. No calls, no messages from Sod. Just silence. His phone buzzed. Ibrahim calling. "Guy, wetin happen?" Ibrahim's voice was concerned. "I don send you 3 messages. The interview NKO." Obinna exhaled slowly. "I didn't make it." "You didn't make it? As in, you failed the interview." "I didn't go." There was a long pause. "Obinna, talk to me. What do you mean you didn't go?" And so Obinna told him. Everything. About yesterday afternoon, about the woman on the Lagos-Ibadan expressway, about the choice he'd made. Yesterday afternoon. The expressway. Obinna had been driving his battered Volkswagen Beetle toward Victoria Island, his interview letter carefully folded in his breast pocket. The interview was scheduled for 3 p.m. It was 1:45 p.m. He had plenty of time. His phone rang. "Zara. Brother Obinna, they said if I don't pay the balance by Friday, they'll send me home from school." His heart sank. How much? 45,000 naira. Obinna closed his eyes briefly, calculations running through his head. This job at Sterling Motors was his ticket. Assistant service manager. Salary. 180,000 naira monthly. Benefits. Respect. A future. Don't worry, Zara. I'll sort it out. I promise. The interview is today, right? You'll get the job. I know you will. Her faith in him felt like both a blessing and a burden. As he navigated through the expressway traffic, his mind rehearsed interview answers. "Why should we hire you?" "Because I'm skilled, dedicated, and I understand luxury vehicles. I trained under chief mechanics at..." That's when he saw her. A Range Rover Sport, black and gleaming, pulled over on the shoulder with its hazard lights blinking. A woman stood beside it, waving frantically at passing cars. Most vehicles swerved around her without slowing down. Obinna checked his watch. 2:05 p.m. Victoria Island was still 40 minutes away, maybe more depending on traffic. He should keep going. He had to keep going. But something made him slow down. The woman looked distressed. Her wrapper and blouse were elegant, clearly expensive, but her face showed genuine fear. She was alone. The expressway stretched endlessly in both directions, and the sun was brutal. "Just drive past," a voice in his head urged. "This is your future. Your sister's school fees. Soda's dreams. Everything." But his hands were already turning the steering wheel. He pulled up behind the Range Rover and stepped out. The heat hit him immediately, radiating off the asphalt in shimmering waves. "Good afternoon, Ma," Obinna called out, approaching carefully. A woman alone on the highway had every reason to be suspicious of strange men. The woman turned, relief flooding her face. She was in her early 50s, with kind eyes that were currently filled with worry. "Please, young man, my car just stopped. It won't start again. I've been here for 30 minutes. Obinna glanced at his watch. 2:10 p.m. "Have you called your mechanic, Ma?" "My phone battery is dead," she said, frustration clear in her voice. And everyone just drives past like I'm invisible. Obinna looked at the Range Rover, then back at the woman, then at his watch again. Every second counted. "Let me take a look," he heard himself say. "Oh, thank God. Are you a mechanic?" "Yes, Ma." "Let me check the engine." She popped the hood, and Obinna leaned in. The engine was pristine, clearly well maintained. He checked the battery terminals first. Tight. Then the fuel line. He listened carefully, turned the ignition. The starter motor clicked but wouldn't engage. 2:25 p.m. He was sweating now, and not just from the heat. His interview was slipping away with every minute. But he'd already committed. He couldn't leave her stranded now. "Ma, you have a starter motor problem. It's jammed. I can fix it, but it will take maybe 30-40 minutes." The woman's face fell. "I have an important meeting at 3:30. I'm supposed to be interviewing candidates for..." She stopped herself. "Never mind. Can you really fix it?" Obinna nodded, even as his heart broke. "Yes, Ma. But I need to get my tools from my car." As he worked, the woman stood in the shade, watching him. She asked questions. Where did he learn mechanics? How long had he been working? What kind of cars did he specialize in? Despite his racing thoughts, Obinna answered patiently, professionally. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, but his mind was screaming, "You're throwing everything away. Everything." 2:50 p.m. "Ma, try it now." She turned the key. The engine roared to life, smooth and powerful. The woman's face transformed with joy. "You did it. Oh my God, you actually did it." Obinna managed a smile, wiping his greasy hands on a rag. "You're good to go, Ma." She reached for her purse. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing, Ma. I'm just happy you're safe." She stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "Nothing. Young man, you just spent an hour fixing my car. In this heat. You must let me pay you something." Obinna shook his head. "It's okay, Ma. Just drive carefully." The woman studied his face for a long moment, something unreadable in her expression. "What's your name?" "Obinna. Ma. Obinna Musa." "Obinna," she repeated slowly, as if committing it to memory. "Thank you. You don't know what you've done for me today." "I know exactly what I've done," Obinna thought bitterly as he watched her drive away. "I've ruined my life." He checked his phone. 3:15 p.m. 15 messages from Saad. 3 missed calls from Ibrahim. The interview was over before it began. "So you just helped her and left?" Ibrahim's voice pulled Obinna back to the present. "What else could I do?" "Get her number. Get her name. Something, guy." She was driving a Range Rover. She clearly has money. She could have helped you. "I didn't help her to get something back, Ibrahim." His friend sighed deeply. "Obinna, your heart is too big for this Lagos. You know that, right?" "My heart cost me everything," Obinna said quietly. After the call ended, Obinna sat in the silence of his room. Saad was gone. The job was gone. And all he had left was the memory of a grateful woman driving away in a black Range Rover. 3 days had passed since the interview, and Obinna's world had grown smaller with each one. He stood outside his landlord's door, knocking gently. It was 7 a.m., and he could hear movement inside, the shuffle of feet, the clink of teacups. "Mr. Obi, please, sir. Just give me 2 more weeks." The door swung open. Mr. Obi, a pot-bellied man in his 60s, looked at Obinna with a mixture of pity and impatience. "Obinna, this is the 3rd time I'm extending for you. The rent was due 2 months ago." "I know, sir. I was supposed to start a new job, but..." "But what? Everyone has stories, young man. This is Lagos. If I start making exceptions for everyone with a sad story, I'll be sleeping on the street myself." Mr. Obi's voice softened slightly. You're a good boy. I know this. But business is business. If you don't have my 70,000 by next week Friday, you pack your things. I have other people waiting for that room. Obinna nodded slowly, defeat settling into his bones. Yes, sir. I understand. Back in his room, he counted the money he had left. 12,000 naira. Zora's school fees were still unpaid. His rent was due. And he had exactly 3 days' worth of food. His phone rang. Zora. He almost didn't answer, but guilt pulled his hand toward the phone. Brother Obinna? Her voice was small, frightened. They've sent me home. The principal said I can't come back until the fees are paid. Obinna closed his eyes, his chest tightening. Zara, I'm so sorry. I'm going to fix this. I promise. Everyone is laughing at me. They said my brother is useless, that he can't even pay for my school. She was crying now. Is it true? Are we really this poor? Don't listen to them, Obinna said, his voice breaking. You're brilliant, Zara. This is temporary. Just give me a little time. How much time, brother? You've been saying a little time for 2 years now, since Papa died. When will things get better? The line went dead. Obinna stared at his phone, his sister's words cutting deeper than any insult Saad had thrown at him. She was right. He'd been promising soon for so long that the word had lost all meaning. He grabbed his toolbox and headed out. If Sterling Motors was gone, he'd find work the old way, at the mechanic cluster in Ladipo Market. The market was chaos incarnate. Hundreds of mechanics, panel beaters, spare parts dealers, all crammed into a maze of workshops and stalls. The air smelled of engine oil, welding fumes, and sweat. Music blared from competing speakers, Burna Boy from one shop, Asoki from another. Obinna moved through the crowd, stopping at workshops he recognized, asking if they needed an extra hand. Guy, business is slow, one master mechanic told him, barely looking up from the Honda he was working on. I can't even pay the boys I have now. The next workshop. Come back next month. Maybe things will pick up. The next. You get your own tools? Your own customers. Then why you day ask me for work? By noon, Obinna's feet hurt and his hope had evaporated. He bought bread and groundnuts from a roadside seller, 1,500 naira he couldn't afford to spend, and sat in the shade of a container, watching the world move around him. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Obinna Musa, this is Mrs. Ngozi Okafor. The woman whose car you fixed on the expressway. I've been trying to find you. Please call me urgently on this number. Obinna stared at the message, his heart suddenly racing. How did she find him? What did she want? Part of him wanted to ignore it. He'd helped her out of kindness, not to gain something. But another part, the desperate part that thought of Zara's tears and Mr. Obi's deadline, made him dial the number. She answered on the second ring. Obinna. Thank God. I've been searching for you for 3 days. Ma, how did you get my number? That's not important right now. Where are you? I need to see you. Today. Ma, I'm at Ladipo Market. But if this is about paying me for the car repair, it's not necessary. This isn't about payment, Obinna. This is about something much bigger. Can you come to Victoria Island? Sterling Motors headquarters. Do you know it? The name hit him like a physical blow. Sterling Motors. The company he was supposed to interview with. The job he'd lost. Yes, Ma. I know it. Can you be here by 4 p.m.? It's important. Very important. Obinna looked down at his oil-stained clothes, his worn-out shoes. Ma, I'm not exactly. I'm not dressed for. Obinna. Her voice was firm but warm. Just come. Exactly as you are. Don't change anything. Can you do that for me? He swallowed hard. Yes, Ma. Good. Ask for me at reception. Security will be expecting you. And Obinna. Thank you. For everything. The line went dead. Obinna sat frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear. Around him, Ladapo Market continued its chaotic symphony, hammers banging, engines revving, traders haggling. But for Obinna, everything had gone silent. What did she want? Why Sterling Motors? Was this some cruel coincidence, or was God finally answering his prayers? He checked his watch. 12:30 p.m. He had 3.5 hours to get to Victoria Island. He stood up, grabbed his toolbox, and started walking toward the bus stop. His legs were shaking, from exhaustion, from hunger, from something that felt dangerously close to hope. Don't get excited, he told himself. Don't expect anything. You've been disappointed before. But as the Danfo bus lurched through Lagos traffic toward Victoria Island, Obinna couldn't stop his heart from racing. Maybe, just maybe, kindness really did come back around. What's waiting for Obinna at Sterling Motors? Is this the breakthrough he's been praying for, or another disappointment? Drop your predictions in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. The Danfo bus dropped Obinna 3 blocks from Sterling Motors headquarters. He walked the rest of the way, his toolbox feeling heavier with each step. Victoria Island was a different world. Glass towers reaching for the sky, luxury cars purring along smooth roads, men and women in sharp suits moving with purpose. Obinna felt like an intruder in his faded jeans and work shirt, still stained with engine oil from the morning. Sterling Motors sat on the corner of a pristine boulevard, all chrome and glass, with luxury vehicles gleaming in the showroom windows. Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Range Rover. Cars worth more than most people earned in 5 years. Obinna's stomach churned. This was where he was supposed to have interviewed. Where his future was supposed to have begun. He approached the security post, his voice barely steady. Good afternoon. My name is Obinna Musa. Mrs. Okafor asked me to. Mr. Musa. The security guard's face broke into a smile, as if he'd been expecting royalty. Yes, yes. Madam said you were coming. Please, come in. I'll escort you to her office. The guard spoke into his radio, and within seconds, another uniformed man appeared to take over the post. Obinna was led through the gleaming lobby. Marble floors, contemporary art on the walls, soft music playing from hidden speakers. People in the lobby stared. His toolbox, his clothes, his obvious discomfort. He didn't belong here, and everyone knew it. The elevator ride to the 7th floor felt like ascending to heaven. When the doors opened, a young woman in a burgundy suit was waiting. Mr. Musa. I'm Grace, Mrs. Okafor's executive assistant. Please, follow me. They walked down a corridor lined with offices. Through glass walls, Obinna could see people in meetings, typing on computers, talking on phones. This was the world of salaries and benefits, of air conditioning and lunch breaks. The world he'd dreamed of entering. Grace stopped at a large corner office. The nameplate on the door read, MRS. Ngozi Okafor, Chief Executive Officer. Obinna's heart stopped. CO. The woman he'd helped on the expressway was the CEO of Sterling Motors. Grace knocked softly and opened the door. Ma, Mr. Musa is here. Send him in. The office was magnificent. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lagos, a massive desk, leather furniture, and walls covered with awards and photos. But Obinna barely noticed any of it. Mrs. Okafor stood up from behind her desk, her face breaking into a warm smile. She looked different from the distressed woman on the highway. Now she was composed, powerful, every inch the executive. But her eyes held the same kindness. Obinna. Come in, come in. Grace, hold all my calls, please. Grace nodded and closed the door behind her. Mrs. Okafor gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Can I offer you something? Water. Soft drink. Water is fine, Ma. Thank you. Obinna's throat was dry as sand. She poured water from a crystal jug into a glass and handed it to him. Then she sat across from him, studying his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Do you know why I called you here, Obinna? He shook his head, not trusting his voice. After you fixed my car, I couldn't stop thinking about you. Here was this young man, clearly in a hurry, who stopped to help a stranger. No hesitation. No demands for payment. Just pure kindness. She paused. I asked you your name, remember? Yes, Ma. I didn't tell you mine. I wanted to see if you'd search for me, try to leverage what you'd done into an opportunity. Most people would have. She smiled. But you didn't. You just went on with your life. That told me everything I needed to know about your character. Obina's mind was racing, trying to understand where this was going. Mrs. Okafor stood and walked to her window, looking out at the city. I had a son. Emeka. He would have been 30 this year. Her voice caught slightly. 5 years ago, he had a car accident on that same expressway. His car broke down at night. People drove past him for hours. By the time someone finally stopped to help, he'd been robbed and beaten. He died in the hospital 3 days later. Obina's chest tightened. Ma, I'm so sorry. She turned to face him, tears glistening in her eyes. When my car broke down in that same spot, I was terrified. I kept thinking about Emeka, about how alone he must have felt. And then you stopped. You could have driven past like everyone else, but you didn't. You gave me what no one gave my son, help when it mattered most. The office fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Mrs. Okafor walked back to her desk and picked up a file. I made some inquiries. It wasn't hard to find you. There aren't many honest mechanics in Lagos willing to work for free. She opened the file. I learned something interesting. You had an interview scheduled here at Sterling Motors on the same day you helped me. An interview you missed. Obina's face burned with embarrassment. My. You sacrificed your future to help me, she said simply. A complete stranger. And now I want to know why. Obina met her eyes. Because it was the right thing to do, Ma. My father used to say that our character is shown not by what we do when people are watching, but by what we do when no one will ever know. I didn't stop for a reward. I stopped because that's who I am. Mrs. Okafor smiled, and it reached all the way to her eyes. Your father raised you well. She placed the file on the desk between them. The position you applied for, assistant service manager, has been filled. The man we hired started 2 days ago. Obina's heart sank. Of course. He'd known it was too late, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. However, Mrs. Okafor continued, her tone shifting. I've been looking for someone to head our new luxury vehicle division. Someone with mechanical expertise, yes, but more importantly, someone with integrity. Someone I can trust with my brand, my reputation, and my customers. She pushed the file toward him. The position is service director. Starting salary is 420,000 naira monthly, plus benefits, company car, and performance bonuses. The job is yours if you want it. The office seemed to tilt. Obina gripped the arms of his chair, certain he'd misheard. Ma, I don't understand. Service director? But I'm just a mechanic. I don't have university degree, I don't have. You have something more valuable than a degree, Obina. You have character. And in my experience, I can teach someone the technical aspects of business, but I cannot teach them to be good. You already are. Obina's eyes filled with tears. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Mrs. Okafor's expression softened. I know what it's like to struggle, Obina. I built this company from nothing. My husband left me when I was pregnant with Emeka. People said a woman couldn't run a car business. But here I am. She leaned forward. I see myself in you. The determination. The heart. Let me give you the chance someone once gave me. Ma. Obina's voice broke. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Start on Monday. My HR team will handle the paperwork. Obina looked down at the file, at the contract inside with his name already typed on it. 420,000 naira. He could pay Zara's school fees for the whole year, pay his rent for 6 months, buy proper food, maybe even win Sod back. But that last thought felt hollow somehow. He looked up at Mrs. Okafor, this woman who had lost so much but still chose to see the good in people. "Yes, Ma," he said, his voice steady now. "Thank you. I won't let you down." She extended her hand across the desk. "I know you won't." As Obinna shook her hand, something shifted in the universe. The boy who'd grown up fixing motorcycles in Kono. The young man who'd lost his father and had to raise his sister alone. The mechanic who'd sacrificed everything for a stranger on a highway. That man was about to become someone new. But he'd done it by staying exactly who he was. Obinna's life just changed forever. But will everyone celebrate his success? What happens when Sod finds out? Drop your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Obinna stood outside his apartment building, staring at the peeling paint and rusted gate with new eyes. In his hand was an envelope containing his first month's advance salary. Mrs. Okafor had insisted he take it immediately to sort out his pressing matters. 200,000 naira. More money than he'd ever held at once in his life. His hands trembled as he climbed the stairs to his room. First thing, he'd pay Mr. Obi. Then Zara's school fees. Then proper food, new clothes for work, and his door was ajar. Obinna's stomach dropped. He pushed it open slowly, and his heart sank further. Sod stood in the middle of his room, looking exactly as beautiful as she had the night she left. Her makeup was perfect, her dress was new, and her smile was radiant. "Obinna, baby." She rushed toward him, arms extended. He stepped back instinctively. "What are you doing here?" "I came to apologize." She clasped her hands together, her eyes wide and sincere. "I've been thinking about us non-stop. I was wrong, baby. So wrong. I said terrible things that night, and I've regretted every word." "How did you get in?" "Mr. Obi let me in. I told him we had a fight and I wanted to surprise you." She moved closer, her perfume filling the small space. "Obinna, these past few days without you have been hell. I miss you. I miss us." Obinna set his toolbox down carefully, studying her face. "What changed, Sod? 3 days ago, you said you couldn't afford to love someone like me. That I'd always choose everyone else over myself. Over us." I was angry. Hurt. I wasn't thinking clearly. She reached for his hands, but he kept them at his sides. "Baby, love isn't about money or jobs. It's about being there for each other. And I should have been there for you instead of walking out." "Where have you been staying?" Obinna asked quietly. "At my friend Jennifer's place. But it's not home." "You're my home, Obinna." He watched her carefully, noting the new earrings, the expensive handbag on his mattress, the fresh manicure. "Nice bag. New." She glanced at it, a flicker of something crossing her face before the smile returned. "Oh, this old thing. I've had it for ages." Obinna had been poor his whole life, but he wasn't stupid. That bag was designer. He'd seen similar ones in Sterling Motors' showroom, worn by the wealthy women who came to buy cars. It cost at least 80,000 naira, probably more. "Sod, who gave you that bag?" "Nobody gave it to me." "Why are you interrogating me instead of accepting my apology?" Her voice rose slightly, defensive. "You know what? Forget the bag. I came here to fix things, and you're acting like I'm the enemy." "I'm not acting like anything. I'm just trying to understand why you're here. You made it very clear that I wasn't good enough for you." "You are good enough." Tears welled in her eyes. She'd always been good at crying on command. "I was foolish, okay? I let my friends get in my head, talking about what their boyfriends have and what I don't have. But I realize now that what we have is more valuable. It's real. It's love. Obinna felt exhausted. 3 days ago, these words would have broken him. He would have begged her to stay, promised to do better, to be better. But something had shifted. Did Ibrahim tell you something? He asked suddenly. Sada's eyes widened just a fraction. Tell me what? I haven't spoken to Ibrahim. But the micro-expression had already betrayed her. Ibrahim must have posted something on social media, or maybe mentioned something in passing to mutual friends. Word traveled fast in Lagos, especially good news. Nothing, Obinna said. Never mind. So, are we okay? Saad stepped closer, her hand touching his chest. Can we start over? I promise I'll be better this time. More supportive. More patient. Obinna looked down at her hand, remembering all the times she'd touched him with genuine affection. When had that stopped being real? Or had it ever been? Before he could answer, his phone rang. Mrs. Okafor. Excuse me, he said, stepping away to answer. Good evening, Ma. Obinna. I forgot to mention, there's a welcome dinner tomorrow night at Radisson Blu. I want to introduce you to the management team and some of our key clients. Business casual attire. 7 p.m. Can you make it? Obinna glanced at Saad, who was watching him intently, trying to hear the conversation. Yes, Ma. I'll be there. Excellent. Oh, and Obinna. Bring someone if you'd like. Partner, friend, family, your choice. I'd love to meet the people important to you. Thank you, Ma. I'll let you know. When he hung up, Saad was practically vibrating with curiosity. Who was that? What dinner? A work thing, Obinna said vaguely. Work thing. But you don't have a job. Unless. Her eyes narrowed. Did you find something? At one of those shops in Ladapo. Something like that. Well, whatever it is, I'm proud of you. She smiled brightly. We should celebrate. Let me cook for you tonight. Like old times. I'll make your favorite, jollof rice and fried plantain. The offer hung in the air between them. Part of Obinna, the part that had loved her for 3 years, wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe this version of Saad was real, that she'd genuinely come back for him and not for what she thought he might have. But a bigger part, the part that had sat alone in this room for 3 days mourning both her and his lost opportunity, knew better. Saad, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Anything, baby. If I told you right now that I didn't get another job, that I'm still broke, still struggling, still the same man you walked out on, would you stay? The question caught her off guard. She opened her mouth, closed it, then forced a laugh. What kind of question is that? Of course I would. I just said love isn't about money. Would you stay? He repeated, his voice firmer. Sada's mask slipped. Just for a second, but it was enough. The calculation in her eyes, the slight tightening of her jaw, the way her gaze flickered to the door. You know what? She grabbed her handbag, anger replacing the sweetness. I came here to make things right, to be the bigger person, and you're playing games with me. Testing me like I'm some kind of gold digger. I didn't say you were. You didn't have to. She moved toward the door, then spun back. You think you're better than me now? Because of what? Some mysterious phone call? Some work thing? She laughed bitterly. You're still the same broke mechanic, Obinna. Still living in this rat hole, still wearing oil-stained clothes. Whatever small job you found, it won't change who you are. You'll always be small. The words were meant to wound, and 3 days ago, they would have. But today, with Mrs. Okafor's contract signed and his advance salary in his pocket, they bounced off him like rain off glass. You're right, Obinna said calmly. I am the same person. The same man who helps strangers. The same man who puts others before himself. The same man who believes kindness matters more than money. And you know what, Saad? I'm proud to be that man. She stared at him, confused by his composure. I loved you, Obina continued. For 3 years, I loved you with everything I had. I worked extra hours so I could take you out. I saved money I didn't have to buy you birthday gifts. I dreamed about our future together. But you were right about one thing. We were never going to work. Not because I'm poor, but because we value different things. So that's it. Soda's voice cracked. You're just done. You were done 3 days ago. I'm just accepting it now. She stood there for a moment, her chest heaving, tears streaming down her face. Real tears this time, Obina thought, but not from love, from pride. From the realization that she'd miscalculated. You'll regret this, she said quietly. When you're still stuck here 6 months from now, when reality hits, you'll remember that I came back. That I gave you a second chance. Maybe, Obina said. But I'd rather regret losing you than regret losing myself. Sod walked out without another word, her heels clicking down the stairs with finality. Obina stood in the silence of his room, surprised by how light he felt. How free. His phone buzzed. A text from Zara. Brother, please call me when you can. I need to talk to you about school. He smiled and called her immediately. Zara? Good news. Baby sister. Pack your bags. You're going back to school on Monday. And this time, we're paying for the whole year. Her scream of joy through the phone made everything, the missed interview, Soda's betrayal, the 3 days of despair, worth it. Obina chose himself over Sod. But is she really gone for good? And what surprises await at tomorrow's dinner? Comment your thoughts below. Like and subscribe. The Radisson Blu Hotel ballroom glittered like a dream. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over round tables dressed in white linen, and soft jazz music floated through the air. Obina stood at the entrance in his new navy blue suit, the first suit he'd ever owned, feeling like an imposter in paradise. Mr. Musa. Mrs. Okafor appeared beside him, elegant in a gold wrapper and matching blouse. You look wonderful. Come, let me introduce you to everyone. Beside Obina stood Zara, wearing a new dress he'd bought her that afternoon. Her eyes were wide with wonder, taking in the luxury around them. This is my sister Zara, Obina said proudly. Mrs. Okafor's face softened. Beautiful name for a beautiful young lady. Welcome. Zara. Your brother talks about you constantly. As they moved through the room, Mrs. Okafor introduced Obina to Sterling Motors' management team, department heads, and major clients. Each handshake felt surreal. These were people who drove the cars he used to only dream about touching. And this, Mrs. Okafor said, approaching a tall man in a grey suit, is our current service manager, Mr. Doten Bakare. Doten, meet Obina Musa, your new director. Doten's handshake was firm, his smile genuine. I've heard amazing things about you, sir. Mrs. Okafor doesn't praise people lightly. Welcome to the team, sir. Someone had called him sir. The evening progressed with speeches and toasts. When Mrs. Okafor took the microphone to formally introduce Obina, the room fell silent. Many of you know that 5 years ago, I lost my son Emeka, she began, her voice steady but emotional. His death taught me that life is fragile, and that kindness is the currency that truly matters. Last week, I met someone who reminded me that good people still exist in this world. She recounted the story, the broken-down car, the highway, Obina's selfless help. People listened, captivated. This young man sacrificed a job interview to help a stranger. He didn't know who I was. He didn't expect anything in return. He just did what was right. Mrs. Okafor's eyes found Obina in the crowd. That's the kind of character I want representing Sterling Motors. That's the kind of person I want leading my team. Please join me in welcoming Service Director Obina Musa. The applause was thunderous. Obina stood, his legs shaking, and made his way to the front. When Mrs. Okafor handed him the microphone, he looked out at the sea of faces. Important people, wealthy people, successful people, and felt suddenly calm. Thank you, Ma, he said, his voice clear. My father used to say that a man's wealth isn't measured by what's in his pocket, but by what's in his heart. I grew up poor. I'm still learning what it means to have enough. But one thing I've always had is the knowledge that doing right matters, even when no one's watching. He glanced at Zara, who was crying with pride. 3 days ago, I thought my life was over. I'd lost my job opportunity, lost my girlfriend, was about to lose my home. But Mrs. Okafor showed me that when you plant seeds of kindness, you never know what harvest you'll reap. He turned to her. Ma, thank you for seeing past my circumstances and trusting my character. I promise to honor that trust every single day. The applause this time felt different. Warmer, more personal. As dinner was served, Ibrahim appeared at their table, grinning widely. Guy, I knew something big happened when you didn't answer my calls. He hugged Obinna tightly. Service director? My guy, you don't blow. They laughed together, and for the first time in years, Obinna felt like he could breathe fully. The evening wound down with dancing and more networking. As Obinna stood on the balcony catching his breath, Mrs. Okafor joined him. How are you feeling? She asked. Overwhelmed. Grateful. Terrified, Obinna admitted. Ma, what if I'm not smart enough for this? What if I fail you? Obinna, do you know why I'm confident in you? She looked out at the Lagos skyline, lights twinkling like earthbound stars. Because you care. You care about people, about doing right, about being better. I can teach you business operations, management strategies, customer relations. But I cannot teach you to care. You already have the most important qualification. My father would be proud, Obinna said softly. He always said character was the only inheritance that mattered. He was right. And you've honored his legacy beautifully. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city. Ma, can I ask you something? Obinna hesitated. Why did you really hire me? Was it just because I helped you, or? I hired you because of what you did after you helped me, Mrs. Okafor interrupted. You didn't search for me. You didn't try to leverage your good deed. You simply went back to your life. That told me you weren't performing kindness. You were living it. That's rare, Obinna. Especially in Lagos. Monday morning arrived faster than Obinna expected. He stood outside Sterling Motors headquarters at 7:45 a.m., briefcase in hand, another new purchase. The security guard who'd escorted him days earlier now saluted him. Good morning, sir. Inside, Grace was waiting with his office keys, company phone, and laptop. Your office is on the 6th floor, sir. Mrs. Okafor wants to see you at 9 a.m. for your formal orientation. His office. Obinna still couldn't believe those words. The space was modest but professional. Desk, computer, bookshelves, and a window overlooking the showroom below. On his desk was a framed note. Character is doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Welcome to Sterling Motors. Make us proud. N.O. Obinna sat down in his chair, and let the moment wash over him. 4 days ago, he'd been a broke mechanic in a one-room apartment, abandoned by his girlfriend, unable to pay his sister's school fees. Today, he was service director of Sterling Motors, with a salary that would change his family's life, working for a woman who valued character over credentials. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Heard you got a big job at Sterling Motors. Congratulations. Maybe we can meet for coffee sometime? Sod. Obinna read it twice, then deleted it without responding. Some chapters in life needed to close completely before new ones could truly begin. Another message came through, this one from Zara. First day of school again. Thank you, brother. I'm going to make you proud. I love you. He smiled and typed back. You already make me proud. Focus on your studies. Love you more. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Doughton entered with a stack of files. Good morning, boss. Ready for your first day? I've prepared reports on all our current service contracts, customer feedback, and operational challenges. Figured we'd hit the ground running. Obinna stood and shook his hand. Let's do it. As they dove into work, Obinna realized something profound. The job interview he'd missed hadn't been the opportunity. The broken-down car on the highway had been the real interview, a test of character administered by life itself. And he'd passed. Not because he was trying to impress anyone, but because he'd simply been himself. The man his father had raised him to be. The man who believed that kindness was never wasted, that integrity mattered more than advantage, that doing right was its own reward. 3 months later, Obinna stood in the parking lot of a new apartment building in Surulere. Nothing fancy, but clean, safe, with 2 bedrooms so Zara could have her own space. His Volkswagen Beetle sat beside a company car, a Toyota Camry with Sterling Motors service director on the plate. Mrs. Okafor had visited once, bringing a housewarming gift, a framed photo of that highway where everything changed. Never forget where you came from, she'd said. And never forget that one moment of kindness can change everything. Obinna never did forget. Years later, when people asked him the secret to his success, he always told them the same story. About a woman with a broken-down car, a missed job interview, and the decision to help anyway. Kindness is never wasted, he'd say. You plant it like a seed, not knowing where or when it will grow. But trust me, it always does. Always. And somewhere in Lagos, on a busy expressway where cars rushed past broken-down vehicles without slowing, Obinna's story became a legend. A reminder that in a city where everyone was hustling, grinding, and looking out for themselves, sometimes the most successful thing you could do was simply be kind. The end. What an incredible journey. From a roadside breakdown to a life transformed, Obinna's story proves that character truly is destiny. What's your biggest takeaway from this story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs inspiration today, and subscribe to Stories by Stoner for more powerful African stories that celebrate integrity, resilience, and the power of kindness. What story should we tell next? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, remember, your character is your greatest currency. Invest in it wisely.